You're watching once again a YouTube video presentation of the University of Wyoming Center on Aging. I'm Scott Veach. I'm your host, and on this program we'll be discussing topics of interest for caregivers of loved ones with dementia. We hope that you will subscribe to the channel and you'll hit that thumbs up like button. Both of those actions help the channel to grow and allow us to reach more people. And if you'll tap that notification bell, you'll be alerted each time we upload a new program. And now, this is Once Again. My guest today is Kimberly Whelan. She is a registered dietitian on the West Coast. She is one who specializes in behavioral change for wellness, weight loss, and chronic condition management. I can tell you that she is passionate about supporting others to be their best selves, to eat and exercise for well-being during times of stress, and when you have little time for self-care. And I think, Kimberly, if we had a room full of 500 people and asked them if they identify, we'd have 500 hands go up in the air, because it sounds like that's just about everyone. Thanks so much for being with us today. Is that true? That it seems like it hits just about everybody, those things.
Yes, it does. Yeah. Self-care and staying on track with behaviors that support our health tends to elude people quite often. Yeah, some people find a routine that works, but eventually, things pop up in our lives that can get us off track. So it does affect everyone for sure.
Are there ways that we can recognize those things are happening?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think we all intuitively know when it's happening. I think we feel off. Maybe our sleep is off or our energy is off. Maybe we're having, digestive issues because we're not eating the foods we normally eat, or we're not getting the normal routine of exercise. So I think intuitively we know, but sometimes we just keep going and ignore the signs.
Right. You made a presentation to the Wyoming Dementia Together group back in June of 2023. And you talked about two main segments of this, one nutrition and one physical activity. So I want to use this part of our program to talk about the first one, nutrition. And I like so much, one of the things you said right off the bat is that it's important to keep it simple. How do we do that?
Yeah, keeping it simple. Well, so often, Scott, we get these ideas in our head about kind of the perfect way to eat or the perfect routine, mealtime for the day is breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so we really get caught up in that kind of ideal or the perfect situation. And we kind of miss the opportunity to fit these small little changes into our day that could have a big effect. So taking smaller steps instead of trying to aim for the ideal and looking at what's doable now, what's doable right now, what can I do today? Given that this is focused on caregivers, we know things can change day to day.
Right.
So that's what I would tell most people is focus on the day or the week and stay present, and not so much on the ideal that you're aiming for.
We'll get into specifics in just a second, but one of the things you also said was to concentrate on what works for you. How do we do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So taking ideas that you might have, you might see things on the internet, or your doctor might give you ideas, or friends and family. And I always say personalize it rather than trying to imitate what other people are doing. Think about what you like about that idea and then personalize it for you, for yourself, so that it works for you.
And what are some of the facets of that? I mean, are we talking about lifestyle or time management, or what are we talking about?
All of those things. Lifestyle, yeah. For example, if I like what someone's doing with their meals or their recipes. Maybe it doesn't, the recipe itself, everything's from scratch, and I see it online. I think, oh, that's really cool. I want to make that, but I just don't have time to do that. So taking that recipe and finding some shortcuts so that I can make it. And it's maybe almost like what that person made, but it's something that fits into the time that I have available to prepare something.
Is there a way to do it without having to seem like, boy, it's just one more ball I have to juggle in the air?
Um, wow, that's a good question. It all seems like one more ball to juggle in the air.
Right, right.
But I think when we can incorporate things into the way our lifestyle is working now. So if that's, in some of the examples that I gave in my presentation were, if it's a matter of just what I can do right now is just add some vegetables to my dinner. Right. It's not one more ball. Maybe I already have things in my freezer or I already have things in my pantry that I can add. I don't have to start something new. I can use what I already have, or I can fit it into what I'm doing right now. So I'm adding fruit to a breakfast that I'm already eating. So that's not feeling like one more ball in the air.
Right, right. You mentioned one of the topics you covered was what are some things to consider? And you mentioned the ones that I think we probably know about: the salt, the sugars, the fats, but also the also fiber, nutrition, things like that. I guess we need to read the labels. Maybe that's a good starting point.
We do. I mean, the preference, the preference right now is that, or I should say, the movement right now, even at the USDA level, is to get people to eat more whole foods. And so
And whole
yes, we
foods
do.
are what?
Whole foods are foods that have not been processed. So we're talking about your fruits and vegetables, and they might be minimally processed. I mean, frozen or canned is minimally processed, but they're not things that have been breaded and fried with a lot of added oils and sugar and fat. Those are the highly processed foods. So we're talking about fresh fruits and vegetables, or frozen and canned, or we're talking about whole grains, something that's, might have a little yeast or salt added to it, but there's not 10 ingredients that totally change that whole food from what it originally was.
Are there books or websites that you constantly recommend as pretty good sources of information for those who want to do this?
Yeah, I would say one that I think is pretty popular out there is Forks Over Knives. They are a whole food
Oh,
plant-based site. However, even if you continue to decide to eat meat, there are most of the time people don't know how they want to prepare their vegetables, right? Or how do I use my fruits and how do I incorporate those into things? So going to a place like Forks Over Knives that's plant-based and has a lot of information about fruits and vegetables and fiber, and how to make things. And they have a lot of recipes and how to simplify things. So I send people there a lot and just get some ideas. And then again, like I say, personalize it, take a few things away, and then look for resources that might work for you. Because some people they like a recipe book. Some people like to look at pictures and have a physical book. Some people do everything on the internet. So it really depends on what kind of person you are.
we didn't talk about this before, but it just came to mind. What about when people say, "What about when I eat out?" Or, I need fast food, or I use fast food. Are there
Yeah.
healthier alternatives, options available?
There are. It takes a little bit of homework. And so, generally, in the line of work I'm in, we encourage or invite people to go up online. If there's some restaurants that you like to visit a lot, is take a look at the website, take a look at the menu, and if you can, find some nutrition information, and really find, ahead of time, things that you think are a better choice. The other thing I would say to that is, oftentimes we know that foods like fried, things with
The good stuff.
sauces, dressings, though a lot of times those things are going to be higher in fat and calories and sugar. So I always say, sauces and dressings on the side, you decide how much you want to add. If you're a dipper or you want to add it, ask things to be baked or grilled if you can, instead of getting it fried. So there's things you can do right in the moment. You can also portion things out. I'm going to eat half and take half home. So right there, you've cut everything in half. So those are some things you can do in the moment, right at the restaurant, or you can look ahead and decide. Those are the immediate things. If someone's ordering home because they're with their loved one and they're not going out, but they're ordering home, a lot of times I ask, well, what can you add to what you're, ordering home? Can you add a salad? Can you add some frozen veggies to that? Can you add some whole beans from a can? Is there something you can add that pumps up the nutrition of the thing that you're ordering and bringing into the house?
You mentioned a few minutes ago something that I want to come back to and cover.
Okay.
And you said that it's okay to start with small steps. And you
Yeah.
listed a couple of them. When you talk about what small steps, what are you talking about?
Yeah, small steps. I generally tell people think about what you can add because once you start telling people to take away or restrict, that feels like another ball to juggle.
Right, right.
Well, I'm going to have now I have to figure out what I'm supposed to eliminate from my diet. So some of the things that I generally say is think about, is there some kind of kitchen tool that you need to make things easier, right? Is it a blender or a hand blender, or a chopper that chops things faster? Is it just having some things in the pantry and your freezer that are just easy grab and go small steps? I can just add some frozen veggies, or add a can of tuna or a can of beans. Those are things typically just a small step, even if you're not changing your whole meal, just adding some nutrients to what you're already having can generally be a small step where people start.
We said at the beginning that there were two parts to this. This is actually going to be a two-part episode. This first one is dealing with nutrition, and the one that's coming up and that will be posted 2 weeks after this one is going to be dealing with physical activity. But before we wrap it up here with nutrition, anything else that we need to cover? Did we get it done here in the last few minutes?
Yeah, to summarize, I would say the general idea here is that a lot of reasons for the chronic conditions, the rising chronic conditions and obesity, and also dementia and Alzheimer's is, we have a really high intake of these highly processed foods. And they are for convenience. And we do need convenience. That's the thing. If you're taking care of somebody, you live a busy life. And that's why I say really focusing on, can you add some whole foods that increase your fiber, that increase your nutrition? So think about adding. And like you said, think of those small steps, not perfection or the ideal. Just think of something small to get you started. And when you start seeing the difference, that's when you get motivated to do more.
We are wrapping up this segment concerning nutrition. Our guest is Kimberly Whelan, registered dietitian, and we want to remind you that in about 2 weeks after this episode is first posted, we will have part 2 of our interview, and that will be dealing with physical activity. So we invite you to stay tuned for that coming up. You've been watching once again a YouTube video presentation of the University of Wyoming Center on Aging. We hope, if you haven't done so already, that you'll subscribe to the channel and hit that thumbs up like button. Both of those actions help the channel to grow and allow us to reach more people. And if you'll tap that notification bell, you'll be alerted each time we upload a new video. Thanks so much for being with us. I'm Scott Veach. We'll see you again next time.